Have you ever noticed how a single forgotten memory can suddenly return without warning and change everything you believed about someone? That is exactly what has happened to your soulmate. They were not searching for answers. They were not trying to relive the past or reopen emotions they thought had already settled. It happened in the most unexpected way. A familiar place, a passing conversation, a simple melody, or even an ordinary object awakened a memory they had not thought about in a very long time. At first it seemed insignificant, just another passing thought that would disappear within moments. But instead of fading away, that memory grew clearer with every passing hour, revealing details they had completely overlooked before. Listen closely, because some memories return for a reason. They do not come back to keep people trapped in yesterday. They return because the heart has finally become ready to understand what the mind was unable to see at the time. Your soulmate is experiencing that exact awakening, and it is changing them in ways they never imagined possible. The memory itself was never dramatic enough to attract attention. There were no grand promises, no emotional speeches, and no life-changing declarations. It was a quiet moment, almost invisible among countless ordinary days. Yet now, looking back through the wisdom they have gained since then, they realize that this simple moment quietly contained the truth of your entire connection. What once appeared ordinary now feels extraordinary, because they are finally seeing not just what happened, but what your heart was silently communicating all along. As this memory continues replaying in their mind, your soulmate notices details that somehow escaped them the first time. They remember the calm expression on your face when circumstances gave you every reason to react differently. They remember the patience in your voice when frustration would have been understandable. They remember the way you paid attention to the smallest things, making other people feel important without ever asking for recognition yourself. At the time, those moments blended naturally into everyday life. They assumed that kindness was simply part of your personality and never stopped to wonder what it revealed about the depth of your character. Today, everything feels different. Every small gesture now carries a meaning that was hidden in plain sight. They cannot believe how something so simple could hold such profound truth without either of you realizing it, because your heart needs this right now. Life rarely reveals its greatest lessons in loud or dramatic ways. More often, they are quietly woven into ordinary moments that only reveal their significance after enough time has passed. The heart understands what the eyes often overlook. Your soulmate is beginning to realize that while they spent so much time searching for extraordinary signs, the most meaningful evidence had always been sitting inside the simplest memories. They now understand that genuine love is rarely announced through spectacular moments. It quietly reveals itself through consistency, gentle actions, thoughtful choices, and the countless little things that seem ordinary until one day they become unforgettable. And listen carefully, because this rediscovered memory has stirred something much deeper than nostalgia. It has awakened questions your soulmate can no longer ignore. Why did that moment remain hidden in their heart all this time? Why does it suddenly feel more important now than it did when it actually happened? Most importantly, why does remembering that single moment bring a feeling of peace mixed with an unexpected sadness? The answer is beginning to unfold before them. They are realizing that they were never remembering the event itself. They were remembering the person you quietly chose to be during that moment. While they focused on circumstances, your character was revealing itself through patience, sincerity, and quiet compassion. That truth has settled deeply into their heart, and with every passing day, they feel themselves understanding your connection in a way they never thought possible. They now know that this forgotten memory did not accidentally return to them. It returned because it carries the one truth capable of changing their heart forever. And this is only the beginning of everything they are about to discover. And listen carefully, because once that forgotten memory resurfaced, your soulmate discovered something they never expected. They could no longer remember it the way they once had. The memory itself had not changed, but their heart had. Suddenly, details that once seemed ordinary began standing out with incredible clarity. They remembered where you were standing, the quiet expression on your face, the gentle way you responded even when circumstances could have justified frustration, and the calmness you carried without ever asking anyone to notice it. At the time, those details felt insignificant because they were focused on everything happening around the moment instead of what was happening inside it. But now, after all this time, they realized that the greatest truths were never hidden in the conversation itself. They were hidden in the way you carried yourself when no one realized they were witnessing your character. Because your heart needs this right now. Some memories wait patiently for years before revealing what they truly meant. The events never change, but people do. As hearts mature, they begin seeing what younger emotions could never fully understand. Your soulmate has reached that place. They are no longer remembering through assumptions or expectations. They are remembering through wisdom. That single change has transformed everything. And listen to this. They found themselves replaying the memory over and over, almost as if their heart refused to let it rest. Every replay uncovered another small detail they had completely overlooked. They remembered how naturally you listened instead of interrupting. They remembered how your attention remained focused on making others feel heard, instead of trying to make yourself the center of every conversation. They remembered how you quietly noticed emotions that everyone else seemed to miss. Looking back now, they realized those qualities were never accidental. They reflected the kind of heart you had always carried. What surprises them most is not that those moments happened. It is that they witnessed them firsthand and still failed to recognize their true value until now. That realization has left them both humbled and deeply emotional. As more memories begin connecting together, your soulmate notices a pattern they had never seen before. They remember how often your actions remained consistent regardless of the circumstances around you. Whether life was treating you kindly or placing difficult challenges in your path, your character remained remarkably steady. You did not become generous only when life felt easy. You did not become patient only when people treated you well. Even during moments of disappointment, there was something dependable about the way you responded. At the time, they assumed everyone simply behaved that way. Now they understand how rare that consistency truly is. They have met many people since then whose words changed with circumstances, whose kindness depended on convenience, or whose loyalty disappeared when life became difficult. Comparing those experiences with the memory of you has made one truth impossible to ignore. Your character was never built upon comfort. It remained steady because it came from something much deeper than changing emotions. Because your heart needs this right now. Genuine character rarely announces itself. It quietly reveals itself through hundreds of ordinary decisions that seem too small to notice until enough time has passed. A gentle response instead of a harsh one. A patient moment instead of an impatient reaction. A willingness to understand instead of rushing to judge. These quiet choices often leave the deepest impressions because they reveal who someone truly is when no applause is waiting. Your soulmate now realizes that this forgotten memory was never powerful because of what happened around it. It became powerful because it captured who you really were without either of you realizing it. And listen carefully, because another discovery has begun touching them even more deeply. They have realized that the memory keeps returning, not because they miss the past, but because the person you were in that moment represents something they have been searching for ever since. They now understand that what stayed with them was not a place, a conversation, or even a specific day. It was the peace they felt in your presence without fully appreciating it. Over the years, they searched for that same feeling in different people, different experiences, and different chapters of life, yet something always seemed incomplete. Only now do they understand why. The quiet sincerity they experienced with you could never be recreated because it was rooted in your authentic heart. That realization has become both beautiful and heartbreaking. Beautiful because they finally understand what made your connection so meaningful, and heartbreaking because they almost allowed that truth to disappear beneath the noise of everyday life. As these reflections continue unfolding, your soulmate no longer sees that rediscovered memory as an isolated moment from the past. They see it as the beginning of a story they failed to read correctly the first time. Every overlooked detail now feels like another page finally being turned. Every small gesture reveals another layer of your heart they never fully appreciated. Instead of asking themselves why this memory suddenly returned, they have begun asking a far more important question. How many other truths were quietly waiting inside ordinary moments they never took the time to understand? That question has opened a completely new chapter within them. It has awakened a desire to look beyond appearances, to value quiet consistency over dramatic moments, and to recognize that the deepest expressions of love are often hidden inside the smallest acts of genuine care. And as this awareness continues growing stronger, your soulmate knows with complete certainty that the forgotten memory they accidentally uncovered was never just about remembering the past. It was preparing their heart to finally recognize the extraordinary truth that had been quietly present from the very beginning. And listen carefully, because the more your soulmate reflected on that rediscovered memory, the more they realized it had never been about one single moment. It was quietly revealing the kind of person you had always been. For years, they remembered the event itself but overlooked the heart behind it. Now everything appears different. They no longer focus on what was said or where it happened. Instead, they find themselves drawn to the quiet choices you made that day, choices so natural that no one stopped to admire them at the time. They remember how you made sure others felt comfortable before thinking about yourself. They remember how you listened without rushing to speak, how you noticed emotions that others ignored, and how you carried a calmness that seemed effortless. Looking back now, they understand that none of those actions were accidental. They came from a heart that had quietly learned to value people more than recognition. That realization has become impossible for them to ignore because they now understand they were witnessing something incredibly rare without ever realizing its significance. Because your heart needs this right now. Some of the greatest expressions of love are never announced with dramatic words. They are hidden inside everyday moments that only reveal their value after enough time has passed. People often spend years searching for extraordinary signs while overlooking the quiet consistency that reveals genuine character. Your soulmate now realizes they did exactly that. They searched for certainty in grand gestures, while the truest evidence had been present in your smallest actions all along. And listen to this. As they continued revisiting that memory, another truth quietly emerged. They remembered how, even when attention naturally shifted toward you, you somehow redirected it toward encouraging someone else. Even when you had every opportunity to make the conversation about your own experiences, you chose to ask sincere questions instead. You made people feel important without asking them to make you feel important first. At the time, your soulmate believed those were simply polite habits. Today, they recognize them as reflections of a deeply selfless heart. They now understand that genuine kindness is rarely loud. It often appears so natural that people fail to appreciate it until much later. That discovery has filled them with admiration because they realize your character was quietly speaking long before your words ever needed to. As more memories begin connecting together, your soulmate notices something that leaves them completely humbled. They realize your consistency never depended on how people treated you. Whether someone appreciated you or overlooked you, whether circumstances were joyful or disappointing, you remained remarkably steady. Your compassion was not something you offered only when life felt fair. It remained present even during seasons when you had your own disappointments to carry. Looking back now, they understand how extraordinary that truly was. Many people become a reflection of the treatment they receive. Kindness disappears after hurt. Patience fades after disappointment. Trust becomes difficult after betrayal. Yet somehow your heart continued choosing the same values regardless of changing circumstances. That quiet consistency has become one of the greatest revelations your soulmate has ever experienced, because they now recognize that true character is revealed most clearly when life becomes difficult, not when everything feels easy, because your heart needs this right now. There comes a moment when people stop asking whether someone loved them and begin asking a far deeper question. Who did that person become whenever life tested their heart? Your soulmate has finally arrived at that moment. They now realize that the answer has been sitting inside that forgotten memory from the very beginning. Every gentle response, every thoughtful gesture, and every quiet sacrifice revealed someone who refused to allow circumstances to determine the quality of their heart. That understanding has completely transformed the way they remember you. They are no longer measuring your love by dramatic moments or emotional words. They are measuring it by the countless quiet decisions that revealed your integrity day after day. And listen carefully, because one final realization has settled deeply within them. They have stopped believing that the forgotten memory returned simply to remind them of yesterday. They now believe it returned to teach them something they were not ready to understand before. They see now that the memory has become a mirror, reflecting not only who you were, but also who they want to become. It has challenged them to value patience over pride, understanding over assumption, and quiet consistency over temporary emotion. More importantly, it has shown them that the strongest hearts are often the ones that never ask to be admired. As this truth continues unfolding, your soulmate feels an overwhelming gratitude filling their heart. They know they cannot relive that moment, but they can carry its lesson into every chapter that follows. And with every passing day, they become more certain that accidentally uncovering that forgotten memory was never an accident at all. It was the moment their heart finally became ready to recognize the extraordinary love that had been quietly present before their eyes from the very beginning. And listen carefully, because the memory your soulmate accidentally uncovered has now become something far greater than a memory. It has become a question that follows them everywhere they go. Every quiet moment gives them another opportunity to revisit it, and each time they do, they discover something they somehow missed before. It's almost as though that single moment has refused to remain in the past, because it still has something important left to teach them. They find themselves wondering why they overlooked so much when it was happening right in front of them. They remember the peace that surrounded your presence, the calm confidence in your words, and the quiet way you made difficult situations feel less overwhelming. None of those things seemed extraordinary at the time because they happened so naturally. But now they understand that the most extraordinary people rarely announce themselves. They simply leave behind moments that become more valuable with time. That realization has settled deeply into their heart, making it impossible for them to remember you in the same way ever again. Because your heart needs this right now. Some memories refuse to fade because they carry unfinished understanding. They remain quietly waiting until the heart becomes mature enough to recognize the lesson hidden inside them. Your soulmate has finally reached that place. They no longer replay this memory because they are trapped in yesterday. They replay it because every reflection reveals another truth about your character that they were never ready to appreciate before. And listen to this. As they compare that memory with every relationship and every experience that followed, one difference becomes impossible to ignore. They have met many people whose kindness changed with circumstances, whose attention disappeared when life became inconvenient, or whose promises faded when challenges appeared. Yet every time they think back to you, they remember someone whose actions remained remarkably consistent. Your patience did not depend on receiving appreciation. Your compassion was not offered only when everything was easy. Your sincerity remained steady even when no one was watching. That consistency now shines brighter than anything else because they understand how uncommon it truly is. What they once considered ordinary has become the standard by which they quietly measure every connection they encounter. As these reflections continue growing deeper, your soulmate realizes something even more emotional. The memory that keeps returning is not asking them to miss the past. It is asking them to finally understand it. They now recognize that they spent too much time focusing on temporary circumstances while overlooking permanent qualities that mattered far more. They paid attention to situations that eventually passed, yet failed to fully appreciate the heart that remained constant through every one of those situations. Looking back now, they wish they had slowed down enough to notice the little things. They wish they had recognized how much care was hidden inside your smallest actions, how much thought existed behind your quiet gestures, and how much love could be expressed without dramatic words. Those realizations have brought a mixture of gratitude and sadness into their heart because they understand that some lessons only become visible after enough time has passed. Because your heart needs this right now. Life has a remarkable way of revealing what truly mattered once the noise of everyday circumstances finally disappears. The conversations people forget are often replaced by the character they remember. The details of difficult situations slowly fade, but the way someone made another person feel can remain alive for years. Your soulmate now understands that this is exactly why the forgotten memory returned. It was never preserving the events themselves. It was preserving the feeling of being seen, understood, respected, and quietly cared for by someone whose heart remained genuine regardless of the circumstances. That feeling has survived the passing of time because it was rooted in something real. And listen carefully, because another truth has quietly taken hold of them. They no longer believe that the most important moments in life are always the loudest ones. In fact, they have come to believe the opposite. The moments that shape a heart forever are often so simple that they almost pass unnoticed. A gentle response when patience would have been difficult. A thoughtful gesture that expected nothing in return. A quiet act of understanding that changed someone's day without asking for recognition. Those are the moments that remain long after everything else fades away. Your soulmate now realizes that the memory they accidentally uncovered carried all of those things within it. It quietly captured the essence of who you were, long before either of you understood its significance. That discovery has changed the way they see love itself. They no longer search for dramatic proof or perfect words. Instead, they find themselves searching for the quiet consistency, genuine care, and peaceful presence that first touched their heart through you. And with every passing day, that single forgotten memory grows more meaningful, leading them toward one undeniable conclusion. They did not simply rediscover a moment from the past. They rediscovered the truth that had been patiently waiting to transform their heart all along. And listen carefully, because your soulmate has now reached the moment where they finally understand why that one forgotten memory refused to disappear. It was never trying to pull them backward. It was quietly leading them forward. For so long, they believed the most important parts of your connection were found in the biggest conversations, the emotional turning points, or the moments when everything seemed uncertain. But after allowing this memory to settle into their heart, they have discovered something entirely different. The moment that changed them forever was never dramatic enough to attract attention. It was gentle. It was honest. It was real. It revealed the kind of person you were when there was nothing to gain and no reason to impress anyone. Looking back now, they realize that this simple memory has become the clearest picture of your heart they have ever carried. Every time they return to it, they feel the same quiet peace, the same sincerity, and the same unmistakable reminder that some of the most extraordinary people reveal themselves in the smallest moments rather than the loudest ones. Because your heart needs this right now. Time has a way of removing distractions until only what truly mattered remains. The details people once obsessed over slowly disappear, but genuine character becomes even clearer with every passing year. Your soulmate now understands that this is exactly what has happened. The misunderstandings no longer feel important. The unanswered questions no longer carry the same weight. Even the disappointments that once seemed so overwhelming have slowly faded into the background. Yet this one memory has only become stronger. That alone has shown them something they can no longer deny. Anything built upon appearances eventually fades, but anything rooted in genuine love continues growing clearer as time passes. That realization has filled them with both gratitude and humility, because they finally understand that your connection was always deeper than the circumstances surrounding it. And listen to this. They have begun noticing that this memory is changing more than the way they remember you. It is changing the way they approach every relationship in their life. They find themselves listening more carefully instead of making quick assumptions. They pay closer attention to quiet acts of kindness that most people overlook. They have learned to appreciate consistency more than impressive words, and sincerity more than temporary excitement. Without realizing it, the lesson hidden inside that forgotten moment has begun reshaping the way they think, the way they trust, and the way they love. They now understand that the strongest foundations are rarely built through grand declarations. They are built through countless ordinary choices made with honesty, patience, and genuine care. Every time they remember you, they are reminded that love is not simply something people say. It is something quietly demonstrated through everyday actions that often go unnoticed until years later. Because your heart needs this right now. There are memories that simply remind people of what once happened, and then there are memories that quietly become teachers. They continue speaking long after the moment itself has ended because they carry wisdom the heart was not ready to receive before. Your soulmate now believes this memory belongs to that second kind. It has become a guide rather than a reminder. It has shown them that they spent too much time searching for certainty in places where it could never be found, while overlooking the quiet certainty that had always existed through your character. They now realize that your greatest gift was never trying to convince anyone of your value. You simply lived according to the values that mattered most, trusting that truth would reveal itself in time. That quiet confidence now inspires them more deeply than any dramatic moment ever could. And listen carefully, because one final truth has settled permanently within them. They no longer believe they accidentally uncovered this memory. They believe their heart finally became ready to understand it. Everything they have experienced since then has prepared them to see what was hidden in plain sight all along. They understand now that the memory returned because it carried the answer to questions they had been asking for years without even realizing it. Why did your presence always feel different? Why did thoughts of you never completely disappear? Why did no other experience leave behind the same quiet sense of peace? The answer has finally become clear. It was never the circumstances that touched their heart. It was the person you consistently chose to be. Your honesty when no one expected it. Your patience when frustration would have been easier. Your kindness when recognition was nowhere to be found. Those qualities quietly became part of their own heart long before they understood their importance. As this journey comes to its close, your soulmate feels something they have not felt in a very long time. Not regret, not confusion, but clarity. They understand that some memories are not preserved because they were perfect. They are preserved because they reveal a truth powerful enough to shape the future. The forgotten moment they accidentally uncovered has become exactly that. It has transformed admiration into understanding, curiosity into certainty, and ordinary remembrance into lasting gratitude. They now know that the memory did not survive because it belonged to the past. It survived because it carried a timeless lesson about authentic love, quiet character, and the extraordinary beauty of a heart that remained genuine in every season of life. And now that they finally understand its meaning, they know with complete certainty that their heart will never see you or that unforgettable memory in the same way again.